She told me I meant nothing to her, then showed up, crying at my door a month later. With a secret, I met Eva in the kind of place most people walk past without noticing. A tiny bookshop tucked between a laundromat and a nail salon, with a flickering neon sign that always read open, even when it wasn't. I was there looking for a gift for my sister's birthday. She liked poetry, and I had no business browsing the fiction aisle. But there she was, standing on her tiptoes trying to reach a worn-out copy of The Bell Jar. I offered to grab it for her. She laughed, said something sarcastic like, "Wow, a gentleman in the wild." And we started talking. 1 minute turned into 20. I learned her name was Eva. She was a freelance photographer, and she made a habit of getting lost in bookstores when she didn't want to face the world. She had this chaotic energy that somehow felt calming, like she could explode at any second, but chose not to, just for you. We got coffee that day, then dinner, 2 nights later, then weekend walks, late-night calls, laughing at bad movies, whispering under blankets, all of it. I fell for her fast, the way you fall when you don't know what's coming, and she let me in, just enough. She'd kiss me like I was the only person who mattered but dodge questions about her past like I was a stranger. I thought she was just guarded. I convinced myself that love was supposed to be a bit mysterious. She had this way of making everything feel like art. Even the way she poured coffee or tied her hair felt like it meant something. I'd watch her walk across a room and wonder how someone like her ended up with someone like me. I wasn't special. Just a software engineer with a quiet life and 2 potted plants I kept forgetting to water. But with her, my life felt cinematic. At first, the silences between us were comfortable, peaceful. Then they got heavy, lingering. She'd disappear for a day or two without warning and come back with a vague explanation. Family stuff. Or, I just needed space, and I let it slide. I didn't want to push. I figured if I just gave her time, she'd trust me enough to tell me the truth. We dated for almost a year. I took her to meet my mom. She never introduced me to hers. She said they weren't close. I believed her. There was this one night, I still replay it sometimes, where we lay on the floor of my apartment just staring at the ceiling, our fingers barely touching. She asked me, "Do you think people always know when it's the last time?" I asked her what she meant, but she didn't explain. She just turned to me and kissed me like she was trying to remember me. Things got worse after that. She grew colder. The kisses stopped meaning anything. Her smiles were rehearsed. I started overanalyzing everything. How often she checked her phone, the way she looked at the door like she was waiting for someone else to walk through. I asked her if something was wrong. She said I was being too much, that I was suffocating her. I still remember the last night we were together. It was raining hard. She'd been gone all day. I made dinner and waited. She walked in just before midnight, soaked and silent. I asked her if she was okay. She said nothing. I told her I was worried. She rolled her eyes. I asked her if she still wanted this, us, and she looked me dead in the eyes and said it. "You meant nothing to me. None of this meant anything. I was just bored, okay?" I swear the air left the room. I felt like I couldn't breathe. She picked up her bag, walked out the door and didn't look back. No apology. No goodbye. Just gone. The silence that followed was deafening. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. I stopped eating. I stopped showing up for work. My friends called, but I let it go to voicemail. I sat on the floor for hours trying to replay every moment, wondering what I'd missed, what I'd done wrong. And the worst part? I still loved her, even after what she said. I still looked at my phone hoping for a text. I still left the porch light on, like some pathetic wounded dog waiting for its owner to come home. I didn't tell anyone what she said. I couldn't. How do you explain that someone you trusted with your soul told you that you never mattered? That everything you thought was real was just a performance? Eventually, I went back to work. I smiled when people asked if I was okay. I said I was. I wasn't. Not even close. I threw away everything she left behind. Her toothbrush, the book she never finished, the mug she loved. But I couldn't bring myself to delete her photos. I hid them in a folder deep in my computer. I told myself I just hadn't gotten around to it. Truth was, I wasn't ready to erase her. And then, exactly 1 month later, at 2:14 a.m. on a Wednesday, someone banged on my door. Loud. Desperate. I pulled on a hoodie and opened it. There she was. Eva. Mascara streaked down her face. Her hair was a mess. She was shaking. I opened my mouth to say something. Anything. But she beat me to it. "I need to talk to you. Please." I didn't know where else to go. I didn't move. I didn't know if I should slam the door or hold her. And then she said the last thing I expected. "I'm pregnant. And I think it might be yours." The hallway light flickered above her, as if it too wasn't sure how to process what she just said. I stood there, frozen, hand still gripping the doorknob. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it echoed in the silence between us. Pregnant. And maybe mine. I wanted to say something. Demand answers, scream, laugh, collapse, but all that came out was, "Come in." She stepped inside like someone being chased, looking over her shoulder as if someone was about to follow her. I closed the door behind her, trying not to let the sight of her break me. But God, she looked wrecked, pale, fragile. Not the Eva I knew, not even the cold version who walked out a month ago. She sat on the edge of the couch, arms wrapped around herself. I stood a few feet away, arms crossed, trying to keep my distance, physically and emotionally. "I didn't come here to hurt you," she whispered, not meeting my eyes. "You already did." She flinched like I'd slapped her. Good. I wanted her to feel that. I deserved to say it, didn't I? She nodded, accepting it like a weight she was already used to carrying. "I know. I was cruel. I said those things because I thought it would make you let me go." "Yeah, mission accomplished." She didn't argue. I waited. I wasn't going to help her out this time. If she had something to say, she could say it without me pulling it out of her. "I didn't lie about everything," she started slowly. "Just the part where I said you meant nothing." I stayed quiet. "You meant too much. That's the problem. I got scared. And I thought if I made you hate me, then I wouldn't have to explain everything." "Explain what, Ava?" She finally looked up at me. Her eyes were rimmed red, but there was a flicker of something in them I hadn't seen in a long time. Honesty. "There's someone else," she said. "There was someone else. Before you. During you. It's complicated." My stomach dropped. "You cheated on me?" "No." She shook her head quickly. "No, not like that. It's not. God, it's not simple. I was with someone before you. A bad person. Controlling. Manipulative. And when I met you, I wasn't really out of that yet. I thought I was. I wanted to be. But he kept showing up. Calling. Threatening me." I sat down across from her, reeling. "You never said anything." "Because I was ashamed. And scared. He said if I got serious with someone else, he'd hurt them. You." I didn't believe him at first, but then I started finding notes on my car. My apartment got broken into. Nothing was stolen, but it was trashed. Like someone wanted to send a message. "And your solution was to destroy me emotionally instead of telling me the truth?" "I thought I was protecting you." I laughed bitterly. "Yeah, well, mission not accomplished." She closed her eyes, tears rolling down again. "I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after I left," she said. "I was going to terminate it. I made the appointment. But I couldn't go through with it. And the thing is, I don't know who the father is." Every word she spoke felt like a punch to the gut. I stared at her, trying to make sense of it, trying to wrap my mind around the timeline. We had still been sleeping together right up until she left. But if there was overlap, if that man had been in her life even in the shadows, then I stood up, pacing now. "So what? You just thought you'd drop this on me in the middle of the night like a bomb?" "I didn't know where else to go, Alex. I can't go to him. He'd hurt me. Or worse. I didn't come here to ask you to take me back. I just needed you to know. And what exactly am I supposed to do with that?" She didn't answer. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was her quiet crying and the dull hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to shake her and ask why she didn't trust me. Why she let me fall in love with a lie. But part of me also wanted to hold her. Because beneath all the betrayal, all the pain, was the same girl I once stayed up till 4 a.m., talking about our favorite books with. The girl who once showed up at my door with a carton of ice cream because I had a bad day. The girl I stupidly still loved. "Have you seen a doctor?" I asked eventually. She nodded. "Just once. I'm about 8 weeks. Do you want to keep it?" "I don't know," she whispered. "But I'm leaning yes." I sat back down, exhausted in a way I didn't even know was possible. "And you want me to take a paternity test?" "I will, if you want." "I'm not here to trap you, Alex. I wanted you to hear it from me. Not a text. Not some future court paper. Just me." We sat in silence again. I didn't know what the right thing to do was. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. Anger. Confusion. Fear. All of it. She looked at me again. "I understand if you want me to leave," but I didn't say yes. Because even through the fog, some part of me needed to know the truth. About her. About the baby. About everything. "Stay," I said quietly. "Just for tonight." She nodded silently. And for the first time in a month, I felt the old ghost of something familiar between us. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But something. She fell asleep on the couch wrapped in one of my old sweatshirts, curled up like a wounded animal. I watched her for a long time, arms crossed, heart conflicted. The last time she slept in this apartment, I'd kissed her forehead and whispered goodnight like it was the most natural thing in the world. Now, even looking at her felt like navigating a minefield of everything I used to believe. I didn't sleep much. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the wall while the minutes turned into hours. I wasn't sure what made less sense, how fast she destroyed us, or how quickly I'd let her back into the space she shattered. When the sun started rising, I made coffee, the cheap kind she used to hate. She stirred on the couch and blinked up at me like she wasn't sure if this was still real. "I'll go," she murmured, pulling her knees to her chest. I shook my head. "You don't have to." "Not yet." We talked for a while. Not about the big stuff, just small, safe things. She told me her apartment lease was ending and she hadn't renewed it. That she'd been couch surfing with an old friend. That she felt alone in a way she couldn't put into words. I told her she could stay for a few days, just until she figured out her next move. I set clear lines. Different rooms. No relationship talk unless I brought it up. And if that man she mentioned came around, we'd go to the police together. She agreed without argument. It felt strange how compliant she'd become, like a balloon that had finally lost all its air. That week passed in a strange rhythm. We tiptoed around each other, trading words like glass. She started cooking dinner some nights. I caught her crying in the bathroom once. She didn't know I heard. She sat on the floor with a towel pressed to her mouth, sobbing silently like she didn't deserve sound. I hated how much of me still cared. On the 5th day, I asked her, "Do you still talk to him?" She looked up from her tea. "Number? Not since I left. I blocked every number he used. Changed mine too. But sometimes I still feel like he's watching. Do you think he knows about the baby? I don't know. I hope not." We scheduled the paternity test. They told us it would take 10 to 14 days to get the results. I offered to go with her to the clinic. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. That weekend, I saw her laughing for the first time since she came back. I don't even remember what the joke was. Something stupid I said while burning pancakes. But she laughed so suddenly, so genuinely, that it stopped me cold. Because for a moment, it was like nothing had ever broken. And that terrified me. Because if she could still laugh like that, maybe I could still love her. Maybe, despite everything. The wreckage between us could be rebuilt. But then Sunday came. She went out to pick up prenatal vitamins. Said she'd be gone 30 minutes. I didn't think twice about it until an hour passed. Then 2, I called. No answer. By the 3rd hour, I was pacing the apartment, trying not to assume the worst. My mind spiraled. Maybe he found her. Maybe she went back to him. Maybe this was another escape. And I was just dumb enough to believe in second chances. Then my phone rang. Blocked number. I answered. A male voice, low and cold. "She's not yours, you know." "She never was." Then silence. I called again. Straight to voicemail. By the time she returned, it was dark out. She looked pale, shaken, clutching the bag of vitamins like it weighed 100 pounds. I didn't need to ask. I knew. "He found me," she said, voice barely audible. "I don't know how. He was waiting by the pharmacy. Said he wanted to talk, that he missed me, that he forgave me." She sat down like her knees might give out. "I didn't go with him," she added quickly. "I didn't say anything. I walked away. But he was watching. I could feel it. I called the police. Filed a report. They said they couldn't do much without a direct threat. Eva didn't have texts or photos or witnesses. Just fear. They gave us a case number and suggested a restraining order. That night, I double-locked every door and moved a chair under the front doorknob like I used to do as a kid during storms. Eva curled up on the couch, eyes wide open, hugging a blanket like armor. And that's when I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was scared for her. Scared for the baby. Scared for the version of me that still wanted to protect a girl who once tore my world apart. Because even now, despite it all, I wanted to believe in the good I used to see in her. I just didn't know yet if that made me a fool, or something else entirely. The next few days passed like we were walking a tightrope strung over a canyon of things unsaid. We barely left the apartment. Eva kept the curtains shut and double-checked the locks at night. She started sleeping in the guest room, but I could hear her crying through the walls. I didn't knock. I just listened, fists clenched under the covers, heart sinking deeper each night. I hated how familiar this ache had become, how easily love and pain blurred into the same twisted shape. On the 6th day after the encounter at the pharmacy, a letter arrived. No return address. Just my name, written in blocky, deliberate handwriting. Inside was a single photo. Eva. Taken from a distance. Walking out of my building. Her hand on her belly. On the back, scrawled in ink. "Nice place? Hope you've got curtains in the bedroom too." I stared at it for a long time, bile rising in my throat. My hands were shaking when I called the detective handling the report. This time, they took it seriously. We submitted the photo, they fingerprinted the envelope, advised us to stay inside and not be alone. That night, I found Eva curled in a ball in the hallway, crying silently, forehead pressed to the wall. I sat down beside her and didn't say anything. She leaned her head on my shoulder without asking. "I don't want to keep running," she whispered. "Then we won't," I said, and I meant it. The next morning, I reached out to a friend from college who worked at a law firm downtown. Within 2 days, we had an emergency protective order in place and had moved Eva into a temporary shelter for women at risk. It wasn't a forever solution, but it was safe, secure, monitored. I visited her every day after work. We didn't talk much about the baby or us, just about the day, about little things like which nurse was her favorite or what meal they served that didn't taste like cardboard. She was starting to look more like herself, less hunted, a little stronger. Then, on the 12th day, I got the email. Subject line, paternity results, confidential. I stared at it for a full 10 minutes before clicking. Positive. 99.97% probability that I was the biological father. I sat there, breath caught in my throat, staring at the screen. The numbers didn't feel real. It wasn't just a hypothetical anymore. This was my child, my future, a life already in motion. I printed the results and drove to the shelter. Ava was in the courtyard, bundled in a sweater, reading a worn paperback. She looked up when she saw me, her eyes hopeful and terrified all at once. "I got the results," I said. She stood slowly, and I handed her the page. She read it, once, twice, then looked at me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know, I didn't deserve your kindness." "No," I said softly. "You didn't." She started crying again, and this time I didn't hold back. I pulled her close. She sobbed into my chest, hands clutched in my jacket like if she let go, she'd fall off the edge of the earth. "I don't know how to be a mom," she choked. "I don't know how to be a dad." We laughed, just a little, broken and breathless. "But I want to try," I added. "Not for you. Not even for us. For the baby. Because they didn't ask for any of this." Eva nodded, silent tears running down her cheeks. We sat together until the sun went down. A quiet agreement hanging between us. No false promises, no pretending we were whole again, but a shared commitment to something bigger than the mess we'd made. A few days later, we met with a counselor, then a caseworker, then started planning a safe move-out process once her time at the shelter ended. I offered her the guest room again. She hesitated at first but agreed, temporarily. Everything still felt fragile, like we were walking across glass barefoot, hoping it wouldn't crack. But there was something new between us. Not romance, not yet. Something steadier, honest, real. One evening, while assembling a crib we'd found secondhand, I asked her, "Did you ever really love me?" She paused, hands tightening around the tiny wrench. "Yes," she said. "Too much. That's why I ran." I didn't know what to say to that. So I kept screwing in bolts and let her words settle into the silence. That night, after she went to bed, I stood in the doorway of the guest room for a long time, watching her sleep. Her hand was resting lightly on her belly, and I realized, for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel lost anymore. I felt ready, not for her, but for the little heartbeat growing just behind that blanket. We settled into something that resembled a rhythm, not love, not even comfort, but something stable. She moved back in. Guest room, boundaries, honest conversations only. We were like two people rebuilding after a natural disaster, clearing debris one truth at a time. She was different, softer in some ways, sharper in others. She apologized when she was wrong, didn't flinch when I needed space, and never again told me what I wanted to hear just to make silence easier. I didn't trust her fully, not yet, but I was learning to trust the version of her who stayed. We read books about parenting. She made lists of baby names. I researched car seats and stared at online reviews until my eyes blurred. It was awkward and new and terrifying, but underneath all of it there was purpose. Some nights we stayed up talking, not about what we'd been, but what we were becoming. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes I did. Once we fell asleep on the couch by accident. I woke up with her head on my shoulder and didn't move for an hour, afraid the world might shatter again if I did. And then he came back. It was a Wednesday. I was home alone. Ava had gone to a prenatal yoga class nearby, the first time she'd gone anywhere by herself in weeks. My phone buzzed. Blocked number again. I didn't pick up. I let it ring out. Then the texts started. "I see you playing house. She'll lie to you just like she lied to me. She's not worth what you're risking." The last one sent a chill through me. "The baby isn't yours. You think she told you everything?" I froze. He knew about the paternity results. Somehow he knew. And worse, he was still watching. I called Eva. She didn't answer. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to the yoga studio, breaking every speed limit. She was there, standing by the exit, eyes wide when she saw me. "What's wrong?" she asked, panic already blooming in her voice. I showed her the texts. She crumpled against the wall like her bones had given out. "How is he doing this? I changed everything. He's not supposed to know where I am." I called the detective again, furious. They started digging deeper. Turns out the guy had a record. Nothing major. Just a string of domestic calls that went nowhere because no one ever pressed charges. Eva had never reported him either. But now, with the photo, the messages, and the clear harassment, we finally had a case. A week later, they picked him up. He was sitting in his car across from our building, engine off, just watching. Inside the vehicle, they found a printed copy of the paternity results, stolen from Eva's old apartment before she changed addresses. He'd broken in weeks ago and taken whatever he could find. Eva shook when they told her. She didn't talk for hours, just held her stomach and stared out the window. "He could have hurt me," she whispered. "He could have hurt the baby." "But he didn't," I said. "You're safe now." I didn't expect what came next. "I want to press charges," she said. I looked at her, really looked. And for the first time since she came back, I saw the version of her who wasn't broken. Not anymore. She was angry, righteous, ready. So we did. We gave statements, hired a lawyer, went through every awful detail. I sat beside her in every meeting, holding her hand when she reached for it and letting go when she needed space. He didn't fight it. He pled guilty to harassment and unlawful surveillance. He got probation, mandated therapy, and a restraining order that spanned counties. It wasn't enough, but it was something. By the time her third trimester rolled around, the tension in our apartment had lifted. The air didn't feel like it might shatter anymore. We laughed more. We fought sometimes too, but clean fights, real ones. One night, she asked if I'd be in the delivery room. I said, "Only if you want me there." She reached across the table and placed her hand over mine. "I do." A week later, we were painting the nursery. She wore one of my oversized hoodies and had paint smudged on her cheek. She turned on music and sang off-key, spinning slowly in the middle of the room while I watched, stunned by how much had changed. Not perfect, not even close, but real. I wasn't naive. I knew what we'd been through. I knew what she'd said, what I'd felt, the nights I spent hollowed out by her silence. But somewhere between the screaming and the survival, we'd carved out something new, and I had no idea if it would last. But I knew this. I loved my unborn child, and I no longer hated her mother. That had to be enough, for now. She went into labor at 3:42 a.m. on a Thursday. I was asleep on the couch, half covered in a baby blanket we'd been folding earlier that night. Her scream jolted me upright before I could even understand what was happening. I found her gripping the kitchen counter, her face contorted in pain, breath shallow. "I think it's happening," she gasped, then winced again. We barely made it to the hospital in time. Everything moved in fast forward. Nurses, machines, paperwork, more pain. I held her hand through it all, whispered that she was strong, that she could do this. I meant every word. 10 hours later, our daughter came into the world screaming and red and beautiful. Eva sobbed when they placed the baby on her chest. I did too. There was no holding it back. I didn't even try. The world paused in that sterile room. And for the first time in months, I felt something break inside me in the best possible way. Love. Not the fragile, uncertain kind I once had for Eva, but something deeper, fierce, final. She was mine, this tiny girl blinking up at me with squinted eyes and balled fists. My daughter. We named her Lila. Ava asked if I wanted to hold her first. I hesitated. My hands were shaking. "She's yours, Alex," she said gently, even when I was too broken to say it. "You were always the good one." I took her in my arms. She was light, warm. The weight of her against my chest felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. In a good way. For the first few nights, I stayed in the hospital room with them. I didn't sleep. I just watched Lila breathe. I memorized the sounds she made, the way her face twitched, how she gripped my finger with shocking strength for someone so small. Ava looked at me differently now. Not with longing or guilt, but with something I hadn't seen in her eyes before. Respect. We didn't talk about us. We didn't need to. The night before we were discharged, Eva reached over from her hospital bed and placed her hand over mine. "I don't expect you to forgive everything," she said. "But I want you to know. I never stopped caring. I just didn't know how to show it without destroying you." I nodded. "You did destroy me, but I rebuilt. And now I'm someone who can carry her." We moved back into the apartment together. Again, not as a couple, but as co-parents. The lines were clear, but the warmth was real. She slept in the guest room. I took paternity leave. We took turns on night shifts, traded diaper duty, argued over bottle brands, laughed at how bad we were at swaddling. Lila became the center of everything. She made us softer, better. Still scarred, still healing, but better. And then, 3 months in, something shifted. We were sitting on the floor, Lila asleep in a bassinet beside us. Eva had just finished telling me a story about her childhood when she suddenly went quiet. "You were the only real thing in my life back then," she said, eyes wet. "And I was so terrified of losing you that I made it happen myself." "You didn't lose me," I said. "You just had to find the version of me that survived what you did." She reached out, slowly, carefully. Her fingers brushed mine. This time, I didn't pull away. "I don't know what we are now. Not exactly. We still live together. We still share everything. Meals, parenting, laughter. Sometimes I catch her looking at me like she used to, back in the bookstore. Sometimes I look back. But there's no pressure. We're not trying to recreate what was broken. We're building something new. Something honest, messy, and anchored by a little girl who smiles when we sing out of tune and who already knows how to wrap two damaged people around her tiny pinky finger. Ava once told me I meant nothing to her. But now, she watches me hold our daughter, sees the way Lila calms when I whisper to her, and I know she sees it too. I never meant nothing. I meant everything. To both of them. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough. I meant everything. To both of them. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough.